Deep beneath the soil of modern Asia lies a buried world, a lost chapter in the story of life, sealed away by volcanic ash. For over 100 million years, it was a silent kingdom of stone, holding secrets that would redefine everything we thought we knew about the age of reptiles. This was not a land of lumbering, scaly monsters. It was a realm of impossible creatures. Dragons with feathers, giants that walked on two legs, and the tiny ancestors of birds that filled the skies with colour. This is the story of the Liaoning fossil beds, a prehistoric Pompeii that preserved an entire ecosystem with breathtaking clarity. We will peel back the layers of rock and time to reveal a vibrant world where dinosaurs were not the end of a story, but the beginning of a new one. A world where the line between reptile and bird blurred, and where the first stirrings of our own mammalian age began. This is the Dragon's Cradle. In the rolling hills of Liaoning province, northeastern China, the earth holds its breath. For generations, this has been a land of sorghum and corn, where life is dictated by the seasons and the toil of the harvest. The soil is fertile, a gift from a distant, violent past. But beneath the fields, locked within layers of fine-grained shale, lies a different kind of harvest, a buried kingdom of unimaginable creatures. The year is 1996. A local farmer, Li Yinxian, is working his land near the village of Sihetun. Like many in his region, he supplements his income by quarrying shale slabs for collectors. It is a common practice. The delicate fossils of ancient fish and insects found within the stone are prized. On this day, however, his hammer splits a slab to reveal something utterly new. It is not a fish. It is not an insect. It is a small, complete skeleton, its delicate bones arranged as if the creature had simply lain down to rest. The animal is no longer than his forearm with a long tail and sharp, tiny teeth, but it is the ghost-like impression surrounding the bones that captivates him. A faint, dark halo traces the outline of the body, a soft texture preserved in the stone. It looks less like scales and more like downy fuzz. He has never seen anything like it. What is this creature? A strange lizard? A deformed bird? In this remote part of China, the line between farmer, fossil hunter, and amateur paleontologist is often blurred. Li understands the significance of a unique find. He knows this small stone holds a secret and a potential fortune. He carefully protects the two halves of the slab, the fossil, and its perfect counter-impression. He doesn't yet know the name scientists will give it, nor can he comprehend the scientific firestorm his discovery is about to ignite. He is simply a man who has pulled a dragon from the earth. This single, unassuming fossil, unearthed by chance, will travel from his humble village to the halls of the Beijing Natural History Museum. It will be scrutinized, debated, and ultimately celebrated as one of the most important paleontological finds of the 20th century. The discovery will force a complete re-evaluation of what we thought we knew about dinosaurs, redrawing the family tree of life itself. The world of paleontology is about to be turned upside down, all because a farmer split open a rock on an ordinary day. The fossils of Liaoning are not merely bones. They are snapshots in time captured with astonishing fidelity. To understand how, we must travel back 130 million years to the Early Cretaceous period. This was not the tranquil farmland of today. It was a dynamic, volatile landscape, a world of great beauty and sudden peril. This ancient ecosystem, known as the Jehol Biota, was a network of vast freshwater lakes, surrounded by lush, temperate forests. Towering conifers, ginkgos and ferns dominated the flora, creating a vibrant green canopy. This world teemed with life, but the defining feature of this kingdom was fire. A chain of active volcanoes punctuated the horizon, periodically blanketing the region in a rain of fine grey ash. These were not slow lava flows, but explosive, cataclysmic eruptions that sent superheated clouds of gas and ash racing across the landscape. For the animals living below, there was no escape. The volcanic ash was both a destructive force and a perfect preservative. Like a prehistoric Pompeii, it entombed everything it touched. Fish swimming in the lakes, insects flitting through the air, dinosaurs foraging in the undergrowth, all were instantly buried. The ash was so fine that it formed an airtight seal, starving the microbes that cause decay. It settled gently, preserving the most delicate of structures. The result is a fossil Lagerstätte, a German term for a site of extraordinary preservation. In most fossil beds around the world, paleontologists are lucky to find a single, disarticulated bone. The forces of time usually scatter and destroy all but the hardiest remains. But in the Jehol Biota, the rules are different. Here, the ash captured entire organisms. We find skeletons that are fully articulated, their bones still connected as they were in life. More importantly, the ash preserved the faint impressions of soft tissues that are almost never seen in the fossil record. It captured the texture of skin, the shape of internal organs, the contents of a creature's last meal, and, most revolutionary of all, the intricate structures of feathers and fur. This exceptional burial process created a window into the past of unparalleled clarity. It allows us to see these animals not as collections of bones, but as living, breathing creatures. The ash that fell like a shroud over this ancient kingdom millions of years ago became its unlikely saviour, creating a time capsule that would wait patiently for a farmer's hammer to finally break the seal. When the farmer's discovery arrived at the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology in Beijing, it caused an immediate sensation. The small skeleton was quickly identified as a Compsognathed, a group of small, nimble theropod dinosaurs. But it was the halo of filaments that sparked intense debate. Paleontologists Ji Qiang and Ji Xuan officially named the creature Sinosauropteryx prima, meaning first Chinese reptilian wing. They boldly declared that the filamentous structures surrounding the fossil were primitive feathers. This was a monumental claim. For decades, the theory that birds evolved from dinosaurs had been gaining traction based on skeletal similarities. But concrete proof had remained elusive. The opposition was fierce. Skeptics argued that the proto-feathers were not feathers at all, but rather frayed collagen fibers from the dinosaur's skin, an artifact of decomposition. The debate raged in scientific journals and at conferences. The fossil was a paleontological Rorschach test. Some saw the smoking gun linking dinosaurs and birds, while others saw only wishful thinking. The specimen itself was exquisite. Sinosauropteryx was a jewel of a fossil, its complete skeleton laid out on the slab. It had a long, slender tail that made up more than half its body length, short arms with sharp claws, and the classic bipedal stance of a predator. The filaments were most prominent along its spine, running from the back of its head down its long, stiff tail. They were simple, hair-like structures, nothing like the complex flight feathers of a modern bird. But under the microscope, their hollow structure was undeniable. They were a primordial form of feather, perhaps used for insulation, to keep the small, active animal warm. The discovery challenged every popular depiction of dinosaurs. The image of giant, scaly, green reptiles, a staple of movies and children's books, was suddenly obsolete. Here was evidence that at least some dinosaurs were fluffy. It suggested a creature far more active and energetic than a cold-blooded lizard, one that needed a coat to regulate its body temperature. Sinosauropteryx became the poster child for a new, more dynamic vision of the dinosaur world. It was the first of its kind, the vanguard of a revolution. The discovery vindicated those who had long argued for the dinosaur-bird link and sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The ash-veiled kingdom of Liaoning had offered up its first great secret, and as paleontologists soon learned, it was only the beginning. The announcement of Sinosauropteryx did not just cause a ripple in the world of paleontology, it created a tidal wave. The news of feathered dinosaurs in Liaoning ignited a fossil rush. Scientists, collectors, and local farmers descended upon the quarries, splitting open shale slabs with a new sense of purpose. What had once been a search for fossil fish became a hunt for dragons. The result was an unprecedented flood of new species, a torrent of discoveries that revealed the breathtaking scope of the Jehol Biota. It quickly became clear that Sinosauropteryx was not an anomaly. It was part of a vast and diverse feathered dynasty. Soon came Protarchaeopteryx and Caudipteryx, turkey-sized dinosaurs that sported even more sophisticated feathers. They had symmetrical veined feathers on their short arms and forming a fan on the end of their tails. They could not fly, but they may have used these plumes for display, to attract mates or intimidate rivals, much like a modern peacock. The discoveries extended beyond dinosaurs. The quarries yielded immense flocks of primitive birds, such as Confucius ornis. Thousands of specimens were found, often buried together, suggesting they lived in large social groups. These early birds still had claws on their wings, but possessed the first true beaks. The ash also surrendered its mammalian secrets. The most shocking was Repenomamus giganticus, a creature the size of a modern badger. This was no timid, shrew-like animal scurrying in the shadows. It was a formidable predator. One incredible specimen was found with the remains of a young psittacosaur, a small horned dinosaur, preserved in its stomach. This single fossil shattered the long-held dogma that Mesozoic mammals were uniformly small and ecologically insignificant, proving they competed directly with dinosaurs for food. The fossil tsunami brought forth a complete ecosystem. There were fuzzy pterosaurs, gliding reptiles with coats of hair-like pycnofibers. There were salamanders, lizards, turtles, and countless species of fish. Even the plants were perfectly preserved, including some of the earliest known flowering plants on Earth. This deluge of information was both a blessing and a challenge. The sheer volume of fossils emerging from Liaoning was overwhelming. A thriving black market developed, and some scientifically priceless specimens were sold to private collectors, lost to research. But the finds that did make it to laboratories painted a picture of the Cretaceous period more vibrant and complex than anyone had ever imagined. The ash-veiled kingdom was giving up its dead, and in doing so, it was bringing a lost world back to life. Just when paleontologists thought the Liaoning fossil beds could offer no more surprises, a creature emerged that seemed to defy the laws of biology and aerodynamics. In 2003, Xu Xing and his colleagues described a small dromaeosaur, a type of raptor dinosaur that would once again rewrite the story of evolution. Its name was Microraptor guy. The fossil was breathtakingly complete. It was a small, crow-sized predator, clearly related to dinosaurs like Velociraptor, but its feathers told an astonishing story. Microraptor had long, well-developed flight feathers, but they were not just on its arms. In a stunning deviation from any known flight plan, it also had a full set of flight feathers on its legs. It was, in effect, a four-winged dinosaur. This discovery was a bombshell, providing powerful new evidence in the century-old debate about the origin of flight. Did flight evolve from the ground up, with fast-running dinosaurs leaping and flapping into the air, or did it evolve from the trees down, with tree-climbing animals learning to glide? Microraptor was the ultimate poster child for the trees-down hypothesis. Its anatomy was poorly suited for powerful, running takeoffs. Instead, scientists envisioned it as an arboreal creature, scrambling up tree trunks with the sharp claws on all four limbs. To travel between trees, it would launch into the air, extending its arms and legs to form two pairs of wings, gliding through the prehistoric canopy like a living biplane. It was a remarkable and bizarre evolutionary experiment. This four-winged body plan was not unique to Microraptor. Other related species like Anchiornis and Xiaotingia were soon discovered, showing that this was a successful group of small, gliding dinosaurs that flourished for millions of years. The level of preservation in these fossils was so extraordinary that it allowed for another scientific leap. By examining the microscopic remnants of pigment cells called melanosomes within the fossilized feathers, scientists could reconstruct their original colors. The feathers of Microraptor were not a dull brown or gray. Analysis revealed that they were black, with an iridescent sheen, shimmering with blues and greens in the light, much like a modern grackle or starling. Suddenly, these creatures were no longer just fossils. We knew what they looked like, how they moved, and even the glossy color of their plumage. These four-winged gliders represent a fascinating side branch on the evolutionary road to birds, a path ultimately not taken by the ancestors of modern avian flyers. They are a testament to the endless creativity of evolution, a beautiful and strange solution to the challenge of taking to the air, preserved for all time in a silent, ash-veiled tomb. The image of a dinosaur tyrant is etched into our collective consciousness, a colossal, scaly monster with a thunderous roar. For decades, this was the accepted portrait of predators like Tyrannosaurus rex. But deep within the fossil beds of northeastern China, a discovery was about to challenge this iconic picture, revealing a new and far stranger vision of the prehistoric apex predator. In 2012, paleontologists working in Liaoning province unveiled a creature that was both familiar and utterly alien. They named it Yutyrannus huali, the beautiful feathered tyrant. It was a massive animal stretching 9 meters long and weighing over a ton. It was a tyrannosauroid, an early cousin to the more famous T-Rex, and it was a formidable hunter. But the astonishing feature was not its size or its teeth, but its coat. Preserved along its body were the clear impressions of long, filament-like feathers, forming a shaggy, primitive plumage. This was no delicate bird-like creature. It was a giant predator wrapped in an insulating coat. The implications were staggering. These feathers were not for flight. An animal of this size was firmly bound to the earth. Instead, they likely served a different purpose. The early Cretaceous climate of the region was temperate, with cold winters. A downy coat would have been essential for a large, warm-blooded animal to regulate its body temperature. The feathers may also have served as display structures used in mating rituals or to intimidate rivals, much like the manes of lions. Eutyrannus was not an isolated case. It joined a growing family of feathered tyrannosauroids, including the smaller DeLong Paradoxus discovered years earlier. Together, they painted a new evolutionary picture. It seemed that feathers were a common trait throughout the tyrannosaur family tree, suggesting that even the mighty T-Rex might have had feathers at some stage of its life, perhaps as a juvenile. The scaly monster of popular culture was being replaced by a more complex, more bird-like, and arguably more intimidating reality. These tyrants in plumage fundamentally altered our perception of dinosaur biology and appearance. They were not simply cold-blooded reptiles. They were dynamic, active animals with complex physiologies. The discovery of Eutyrannus proved that the story of feathers was not just about the origin of birds, but about the entire dinosaur ecosystem. If the mightiest predators were covered in downy coats, what other preconceived notions of the dinosaur world were about to be shattered? The answer, it turned out, was written not in bone, but in color itself. For over a century, our vision of the Mesozoic world was rendered in monochrome. The dinosaurs that paleontologists painstakingly reconstructed from bone were shades of grey and brown, their true colours left to artistic license and pure speculation. We knew their shape and size, but their living appearance remained a mystery. We could imagine them, but we could not truly see them. That all changed with a revolutionary breakthrough, one that allowed scientists to open a window into the past and view the world of the dinosaurs in its authentic, vibrant palette. The key was hidden in plain sight in microscopic details within the fossilized feathers from Liaoning. Scientists discovered that these ancient feathers contained preserved organelles called melanosomes, the very same structures that hold pigment in the feathers and hair of modern animals. By analyzing the shape, size and arrangement of these fossilized melanosomes and comparing them to those of living birds, researchers could decode the colors of creatures that lived 125 million years ago. The first dinosaur to have its colors revealed was Sinosauropteryx. The analysis of its proto-feathers showed a creature with a bright, reddish-brown hue, a light-colored underbelly, and a stunning, candy-striped tail of alternating chestnut and white bands. This pattern, known as countershading, is a form of camouflage used by many modern animals to blend in with their environment. Suddenly, Sinosauropteryx was no longer just a fossil. It was a living, breathing animal with survival strategies we could recognize. The revelations continued with Anchiornis huxleyi, a small, four-winged dinosaur. Its fossil was so perfectly preserved that scientists were able to map the entire color pattern of its body. The result was breathtaking. A creature with a dark grey and black body, dramatic white stripes on its wings, and a magnificent reddish-orange crest on its head. It was a creature of striking beauty and complexity, using its colors for display and communication just like a modern woodpecker or bird of paradise. These discoveries transformed our understanding of the Jehol Biota. This was not a drab, reptilian world. It was a landscape filled with animals adorned in intricate patterns and brilliant colors, used for camouflage, species recognition, and courtship displays. We could now paint a picture of this ancient world in its true colors. But color was only one piece of the puzzle. To truly understand these creatures, scientists needed to look at how they came into the world at the very beginning of their lives. They needed to find the nests. The image of a bird tending to its nest is a timeless symbol of parental care. It is a behavior so familiar, so intrinsically avian, that we seldom consider its origins. But the fossil record of Asia reveals that these complex nesting and brooding behaviors have incredibly deep roots, stretching back millions of years to their dinosaur ancestors. For a long time, dinosaurs were thought to be indifferent parents, laying their eggs and leaving them to fate, like modern sea turtles. This view was shattered by remarkable fossils of a group of feathered dinosaurs called oviraptorosaurs. The first of their kind, Oviraptor, was infamously misnamed Egg Thief when it was found near a clutch of eggs. Decades later, new discoveries proved the opposite was true. Fossils emerged showing these animals sitting directly on top of their nests in a protective, bird-like brooding posture, their feathered arms spread wide to shield their young. They were not raiding nests, they were nurturing them. The nests themselves were marvels of preservation. Discovered in the rocks of China and Mongolia, they reveal carefully organized clutches, with large, elongated eggs arranged in a neat circle. This precise arrangement indicates that the parents deliberately constructed a nest and positioned the eggs with care. But the most astonishing revelation came from the eggs themselves. Chemical analysis of fossilized eggshells from China revealed traces of the original pigments. Scientists found biliverdin and protoporphyrin, the same two pigments that color the eggs of modern birds. This means that some dinosaur eggs were not a plain, dull white. They were colored perhaps a shade of pale blue or green, much like a robin's egg. This coloration served a crucial purpose. Brightly colored eggs would be highly visible to predators if left unattended. Their color suggests they were laid in open nests and required camouflage, which in turn provides powerful indirect evidence for parental care. A parent had to be present to incubate and defend the clutch, and there were many threats. The world of the Jehol Biota was also home to giant mammals like Repenomamus. One incredible fossil captures this prehistoric danger, the skeleton of a Repenomamus with the remains of a young psittacosaur, a small horned dinosaur preserved in its stomach. This was a high-stakes world for dinosaur parents. The evidence was mounting. Complex social behaviors, parental care, feathered bodies. The line between dinosaur and bird was blurring, but to cross it, one final, monumental leap was required, the leap into the sky. For millions of years, the sky was the exclusive domain of insects and the great pterosaurs. But in the lush, volcanic landscapes of ancient China, a new kind of creature was preparing to claim the air, not with leathery membranes, but with wings of feathers. This was the world of Confucius ornis sanctus, the holy Confucius bird, a pivotal creature that opens a new chapter in the story of life on Earth. Discovered in the same Liaoning deposits that yielded the feathered dinosaurs, Confucius ornis is one of the most abundant vertebrate fossils from the era. Thousands of specimens from fledglings to adults have been unearthed, providing an unparalleled look at an early bird population. It was a creature of contrasts, a perfect mosaic of primitive and advanced features. Like its dinosaur ancestors, it still possessed prominent claws on its wings, which it may have used for climbing or grasping. Yet, in a remarkable evolutionary leap, it had lost the teeth of its predecessors and developed the first known toothless beak, a feature that would become a hallmark of all modern birds. Its anatomy tells the story of an animal experimenting with a new way of life. The structure of its shoulders and the presence of large asymmetrical flight feathers confirm that Confucius ornis was capable of powered flight. It could flap its wings and generate lift, truly taking to the air. It was likely not as agile or efficient a flyer as a modern swallow, perhaps being more akin to a pheasant, capable of strong bursts of flight, but not sustained aerial maneuvering. It was a pioneer, an early draft of the avian flight machine. The sheer number of fossils also revealed another bird-like trait, sexual dimorphism. Many skeletons are found with a pair of long, elegant, ribbon-like tail feathers, while others lack them entirely. This is widely interpreted as the males possessing ornate plumage for courtship displays, a behavior fundamental to bird life today. We can imagine the skies above the ancient Jehol lakes filled with flocks of these creatures, the males trailing their magnificent streamers to attract a mate. With beaks, flight, and elaborate plumage, creatures like Confuciusornis had clearly crossed a threshold. They were birds. But this new identity did not erase their past. It was built upon it, every feather and every bone a testament to their deep reptilian heritage, a connection that science was only just beginning to fully appreciate. For over a century, a controversial idea lingered at the fringes of science, that the humble sparrow in the garden was a direct descendant of the mighty dinosaurs. It seemed fantastical, a notion too strange to be true. But the fossils emerging from the dragon's cradle from the ancient lakebeds of Liaoning were transforming this radical hypothesis into undeniable scientific fact. The evidence was overwhelming, written in every feathered fossil pulled from the stone. The connection begins with the feathers themselves. Once thought to be an exclusively avian feature, we now know they were widespread among theropod dinosaurs. They adorned the giant Eutyrannus, the fleet-footed Sinosauropteryx, and countless others. Feathers were a dinosaur innovation later co-opted for flight by their avian descendants. The link is also cemented in their skeletons. The wishbone, or furcula, which acts as a spring in a bird's flight stroke, was present in dinosaurs like Velociraptor. The hollow, air-filled bones that make birds so light were also a feature of their theropod ancestors. Even the way they reproduced, with brooding behaviors seen in oviraptorosaurs and colored eggs for camouflage, points to a shared heritage. The discoveries from China allowed scientists to finally vindicate the 19th century naturalist Thomas Henry Huxley. After studying the skeletons of the early bird Archaeopteryx and the small dinosaur Compsognathus, Huxley was the first to formally propose the direct evolutionary link between dinosaurs and birds. His ideas were largely dismissed for 100 years, but the fossils of Liaoning provided the definitive proof he lacked. Using modern methods of analysis known as cladistics, scientists can now map the family tree with incredible precision. This new understanding reveals that birds are not just descended from dinosaurs, they are, in a very real sense, living dinosaurs. They belong to a branch of theropods called Maniraptora. To say birds evolved from dinosaurs is like saying a human evolved from mammals. It is more accurate to say that a human is a mammal. The Jehol Biota provides a perfect snapshot of this grand evolutionary transition. It was a world populated by a spectacular array of creatures that blur the lines: four-winged dinosaurs like Microraptor, bird-like dinosaurs with primitive plumage, and dinosaur-like birds like Confuciusornis, all living side by side. The dragons of ancient China never truly vanished. They simply changed. They shed their teeth for beaks, refined their flight, and spread across the globe to conquer every continent. Every time we see a bird take to the sky, we are witnessing a legacy, a direct, unbroken line to the tyrants in plumage and the dawn of flight, a living echo from the dragon's cradle. Imagine a world not of uniform green, but of 1,000 shades of ancient foliage. This was the Jehol Biota, a landscape captured in stone with astonishing clarity. The forests of the early Cretaceous were a mix of the familiar and the alien. Towering conifers, ancestors to modern pines and firs, shared the canopy with groves of ginkgo trees, their fan-shaped leaves casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. These were living fossils even then, a lineage stretching back hundreds of millions of years, but among them something new was taking root. The first flowering plants, or angiosperms. These were not the vibrant, showy blossoms of today, but small, hardy pioneers, adding subtle notes of colour to the landscape and heralding a botanical revolution that would change the planet forever. The forest floor was a thick carpet of ferns, mosses, and cycads, creating a complex, multi-layered environment. The climate was temperate, with warm, wet summers giving way to cool, dry winters. This seasonal rhythm dictated the lives of all inhabitants, from the smallest insects to the largest dinosaurs. But this was also a land of fire. The entire region was an active volcanic zone. Periodically, the earth would tremble, and nearby volcanoes would erupt, blanketing the landscape in a fine, suffocating ash. While catastrophic for the creatures living there, this ash was the secret to their immortality. It settled in lakes and on the forest floor, entombing plants and animals with such speed and delicacy that it preserved not just bones, but feathers, skin impressions, and even the contents of their last meals. It is through this volcanic lens that we see this world. We can almost hear the rustle of a small feathered dinosaur like Sinosauropteryx, its banded tail flashing as it hunts for lizards in the undergrowth. We can picture the feathered Caudipteryx, more like a prehistoric turkey, pecking at seeds and plants with its beaked mouth. Above them, in the branches, early mammals like Eomaya, no bigger than a mouse, scurried to avoid becoming prey. This forest was a complete, functioning ecosystem, a complex web of life and dependency. Every fossil tells a story of this interconnected world, a world frozen at the moment of its interruption, waiting for millennia to be rediscovered. But this forest held other secrets, preserved not in stone, but in golden, translucent tears of ancient trees. It is a time capsule, a golden jewel holding a fragment of a lost world. Amber, the fossilized resin of ancient coniferous trees, is nature's most perfect preservative. In the forests of Cretaceous Asia, this sticky substance flowed from the bark of trees, an effective defense against boring insects. But for any creature unfortunate enough to be caught in its path, it was a beautiful, inescapable trap. Unlike the compression of rock, amber provides a three-dimensional window into the past, preserving its subjects with microscopic fidelity. Within these golden tombs, we find an entire miniature ecosystem. Ancient wasps with iridescent wings and delicate antennae are frozen mid-flight. Prehistoric spiders are forever suspended in their silken webs, sometimes with their captured prey. We see flies, beetles, termites, and gnats, many belonging to families that still exist today, a testament to their incredible evolutionary success. These tiny inclusions offer profound insights. The discovery of bees and other pollinating insects in amber provides a direct link to the rise of the flowering plants we met in the forest. It is evidence of a co-evolutionary dance that had just begun, a partnership that would eventually dominate terrestrial ecosystems. We see signs of ancient behaviors, Parasitic wasps are found alongside their potential hosts, their complex life cycles already well established 125 million years ago. A piece of amber might contain not just an insect, but also air bubbles holding samples of the Cretaceous atmosphere, and pollen grains that identify the exact plants growing nearby. Perhaps most stunningly, amber has captured direct evidence of feathered dinosaurs. Fragments of feathers, trapped as a dinosaur brushed against a sticky tree trunk, are preserved in exquisite detail. We can see their structure, the arrangement of barbs and barbules, and even the melanosomes that tell us their original colours, not drab browns and greys, but possibly iridescent sheens and camouflage patterns. It is undeniable proof, clearer than any fossil in stone, of the feathered nature of these animals. Each piece of amber is a tiny diorama, a snapshot of a moment in deep time. These tiny dramas played out in droplets of resin were but a small part of a much larger story unfolding in the region's vast network of lakes. Beyond the primeval forests, a different world shimmered into view, a vast network of freshwater lakes, the lifeblood of this ancient realm. These were not mere ponds, but extensive bodies of water that supported a rich and diverse aquatic ecosystem, again preserved in stunning detail by the periodic volcanic ashfalls. The water teemed with life. Huge shoals of the fish Lycoptera, a key food source for many predators, moved like silver clouds through the depths. Their mass fossil beds indicate that they were subject to seasonal die-offs, perhaps caused by the water becoming deoxygenated or by sudden poisoning from volcanic gases. This cycle of boom and bust was a fundamental rhythm of the lake environment. Sharing the water were various amphibians, including early salamanders, whose presence indicates a healthy, unpolluted freshwater system. But more impressive were the aquatic reptiles. The long-necked Hyphalosaurus, a choristodere, navigated the shallows using its flexible neck to snatch fish and insects. The discovery of a fossilized specimen with two heads is a famous example of a rare congenital abnormality, a poignant reminder that the challenges of biology were the same then as they are now. Life on the shore was inextricably linked to the water. The feathered dinosaur Sinocalliopteryx, a larger relative of Sinosauropteryx, patrolled the water's edge. Fossilized stomach contents reveal it was a formidable predator, having consumed birds and even small dromaeosaurs, the group that includes Velociraptor. It was an ecosystem of hunters and hunted, where danger was ever present. Soaring above it all were the pterosaurs, creatures like Jeholopterus, with its wide membranous wings, would have skimmed the surface of the lakes, snapping up fish with precision. Their delicate, hollow bones made them fragile in life, but the fine lakebed sediment preserved them beautifully. The lakes were a stage for life's daily drama, a place of both tranquility and sudden, swift predation. The very same volcanic ash that preserved the forest dwellers would drift down into the water, settling on the lake bottom and entombing its inhabitants in layers of muddy silt, creating a fossilized library of aquatic life. For all its abundance, this vibrant ecosystem existed under a constant, invisible threat. The sky, the source of light and life, held a secret that would soon be revealed in the most cataclysmic way imaginable. For millions of years, the rhythm of life in Asia's lost realm was governed by the seasons and the earth. But one day, 66 million years ago, that rhythm was shattered by a visitor from the cosmos. Far across the globe, in what is now the Gulf of Mexico, an asteroid more than 6 miles wide struck the Earth with unimaginable force. The event itself was instantaneous, but its consequences were global and enduring. For the creatures in Asia, the first sign would have been a blinding flash of light from the wrong horizon, brighter than 1,000 suns. It was followed not by sound, but by a colossal tremor that shook the very foundations of the continent. The seismic energy traveling through the planet's crust would have triggered massive earthquakes and renewed volcanic eruptions across the already active region, compounding the disaster. Then came the true apocalypse. A plume of vaporized rock and superheated dust was thrown high above the atmosphere, spreading rapidly around the planet. As this material began to fall back to Earth, the sky itself would have appeared to ignite. The friction of countless tiny particles entering the atmosphere generated an intense wave of thermal radiation, baking the surface of the planet and sparking global wildfires. Any animal not sheltered in a burrow or underwater would have been exposed to this intense heat. What followed was a profound and lasting darkness. A thick shroud of dust and soot from the fires enveloped the globe, blocking out the sun. Temperatures plummeted, plunging the world into a prolonged impact winter. Photosynthesis ceased. The lush forests of ginkgos and conifers withered. The early flowering plants vanished. The entire foundation of the food web disintegrated. Herbivorous dinosaurs, deprived of their food source, were the first to falter. The great carnivores that hunted them soon followed. The intricate ecosystem built over millennia collapsed in a matter of years, perhaps even months. The world of the feathered dinosaurs, so vibrant and complex, was silenced. The reign of the great reptiles was over. From the ashes and the silence, a new world would struggle to be born, and a new class of animals, long hidden in the shadows, would inherit the earth. The fire has passed. The skies have cleared. A strange silence hangs over a changed world. The CT extinction event was a planetary reset button. Over 90% of all species were gone. The non-avian dinosaurs, the pterosaurs, the great marine reptiles, all vanished, leaving a profound emptiness in the global ecosystem. In the aftermath, the first signs of recovery were humble. A fern spike appears in the geological record as these hardy, opportunistic plants were among the first to recolonize the devastated landscape, their spores spreading over the ash-fertilized soil. Amidst this green fuzz, the survivors emerged. They were not the large or the powerful, but the small, the adaptable, and the generalist. Our distant ancestors, the mammals, were perfectly suited for this new world. For over 150 million years, they had lived in the shadow of the dinosaurs, most no larger than rats or shrews. They were warm-blooded, which helped them endure the cold of the impact winter. Many were burrowers, allowing them to shelter from the initial heat blast. Their diet was varied. They could subsist on insects, worms, roots, and carry on when lush vegetation was scarce. Creatures like Repenomamus, a badger-sized mammal from the Jehol Biota that we know preyed on small dinosaurs, represented the lineage of survivors. With their primary predators gone, the mammals faced a world of opportunity. The vast ecological niches once occupied by dinosaurs were now vacant. What followed was an explosive burst of evolutionary creativity. In the millions of years after the impact, mammals began to diversify at an incredible rate. They grew larger, evolving into new forms to become herbivores, carnivores, swimmers, and flyers. The dragon's cradle of Asia became a crucible for this new dynasty. The continent would eventually give rise to some of the most spectacular mammals the world has ever seen, from giant rhinoceroses to the ancestors of elephants and primates. It was the dawn of the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals. The feathered dragons were gone, their story written in stone, but in their place, a new dynasty was rising. The mammals, once living in fear and shadow, were now the masters of a reborn planet, beginning a new chapter in the epic story of life on Earth. For decades, the story of mammals in the Mesozoic era was a simple one. They were depicted as small, nocturnal creatures, scurrying in the shadows, living in constant fear of the dinosaurs that ruled the planet. They were the underdogs, the supporting cast in a grand reptilian drama, waiting for a cosmic catastrophe to clear the stage. Then, in the heart of the dragon's cradle, a single fossil shattered this narrative forever. The discovery was of a creature named Repenomamus, a mammal from the Early Cretaceous period, roughly the size of a modern badger. It was robust, with powerful jaws and a physique that suggested anything but a timid lifestyle. But it wasn't the skeleton of the mammal itself that caused a global sensation. It was the contents of its stomach. Preserved within its fossilized ribcage were the unmistakable remains of a young dinosaur, a Psittacosaurus. The implications were staggering. Mammals were not just hiding from dinosaurs. In some cases, they were actively hunting them. This fossil captured a predator-prey relationship that turned our understanding of the Cretaceous food web on its head. Repenomamus was not an anomaly. It represented a lineage of mammals that had successfully carved out a significant ecological niche for themselves. They were not merely survivors but thrivers, competing for resources and territory. This find provided concrete evidence that the interactions between dinosaurs and mammals were far more complex and dynamic than previously imagined. It painted a picture of a world where a mammal could be a formidable predator, a hunter of the planet's ruling reptiles. The image of the timid, shrew-like mammal was replaced by that of a bold and capable carnivore. The dragon's cradle had revealed that while dinosaurs may have been the titans of their age, the mammals living alongside them were not just waiting for their turn. They were already a force to be reckoned with, adapting, evolving, and in the case of Repenomamus, fighting back. This revelation was a prelude to an even greater story, for as the age of reptiles neared its dramatic close, the descendants of these tenacious mammals were poised to inherit the Earth and grow to sizes previously unimaginable. The end of the Cretaceous period was marked by a global cataclysm. The impact that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs was a planetary reset button, an event of immense destruction that radically altered the course of life on Earth. While it spelled the end for the mighty reptilian dynasties, for the mammals, it was the ultimate opportunity. With the dominant predators and herbivores gone, a vast ecological void appeared. The world was suddenly full of empty roles, and mammals, with their warm-blooded metabolism and adaptable nature, were perfectly positioned to audition. What followed was one of the most explosive bursts of evolutionary creativity in the planet's history. In Asia, as elsewhere, mammals began to diversify at a breathtaking pace. From the small, resourceful creatures that had navigated the Cretaceous undergrowth, new and colossal forms began to emerge. These were the pioneers of the Cenozoic, the age of mammals. Creatures like Andrewsarchus, known from a massive skull found in Mongolia, were once thought to be the largest terrestrial mammalian carnivores ever to walk the Earth. While its exact appearance is debated, its size speaks to a world where mammals could now achieve gigantic proportions without competition from large dinosaurs. Herbivores also grew to immense sizes. Paraceratherium, a hornless rhinoceros relative that roamed across Asia, was the largest land mammal of all time, towering over modern elephants. Its sheer scale was a testament to the new possibilities of a world reshaped. This was an era of experimentation. The environment itself was changing, with forests spreading and new types of plants offering new food sources. This fueled an evolutionary arms race between massive plant eaters and the powerful predators that hunted them. The dragon's cradle and surrounding regions provide a window into this transformative period, showing how the survivors of the Great Extinction event became the new rulers. The fossils of these giant mammals tell a story of resilience and adaptation on a grand scale. But their incredible preservation raises a profound question. What special conditions existed in this part of the world to create such a perfect, detailed record of this bygone age? How is it possible for a delicate feather, a filament of fur, or the last meal of a predator to survive for over 125 million years? The answer lies not in biology, but in geology. The dragon's cradle is a geological marvel, a perfect storm of conditions that created what paleontologists call a Lagerstätte, a fossil deposit of extraordinary quality. The secret to this exceptional preservation lies in the region's violent, volcanic past. During the Early Cretaceous, this area was a dynamic landscape of lakes, forests, and active volcanoes. This volcanic activity was both a hazard to the local fauna and the key to their immortality. Periodically, massive eruptions would blanket the landscape in a fine, suffocating layer of ash. When this ash settled over the lakes, it created a unique environment on the lakebed. The water became anoxic, meaning it had very little oxygen. This was crucial, as the bacteria that cause decomposition cannot thrive without oxygen. Any creature that fell into the lake, a feathered dinosaur, a primitive bird, or an early mammal, would sink to the bottom. There, instead of decaying or being disturbed by scavengers, its body would be gently and rapidly buried by successive layers of fine-grained volcanic sediment. This process effectively sealed the organism in a time capsule. The fine ash particles acted like a natural mold, preserving the most delicate structures with astonishing fidelity. It was less like typical fossilization and more like a natural mummification process followed by mineralization. The pressure from overlying sediments compressed the remains, turning the ash and mud into shale rock, locking the fossil within. This Pompeii-like scenario is why the fossils from Liaoning are not just bones. We find impressions of skin, the outlines of internal organs, and the unmistakable patterns of feathers and fur. It is this unique geological history that has given us an unparalleled, high-definition snapshot of a complete prehistoric ecosystem. The volcanoes that brought a sudden end to these creatures' lives also ensured their stories would be told millions of years later. With such pristine physical preservation, scientists began to wonder if they could go even deeper, to probe for the very chemical building blocks of life itself. The near-perfect physical preservation of the fossils from the dragon's cradle ignited a tantalizing question. If feathers and fur could survive, what about the molecules within? Could we find traces of ancient DNA, the genetic blueprint of these incredible creatures? This question brought paleontologists into the world of molecular biology, a field promising to unlock secrets that bones alone never could. The reality, however, is complex. DNA is a fragile, intricate molecule. After an organism perishes, its DNA begins to break down immediately. Scientists have calculated its half-life, the time it takes for half of the chemical bonds to degrade. Under ideal, cold, and dry conditions, it might last 1,000,000 years. But the fossils of Liaoning are over 125 million years old. The dream of sequencing a full dinosaur genome, as imagined in popular fiction, remains firmly in the realm of fantasy. The original DNA is simply gone, shattered by time into unrecognizable fragments. But the story doesn't end there. While DNA is lost, other, more robust biomolecules can and do survive. Paleontologists have developed incredible techniques to find these molecular ghosts. Using powerful scanning electron microscopes, they have identified fossilized melanosomes, the microscopic pigment-containing structures within cells. The shape and arrangement of these melanosomes directly correlate to color in modern animals. By studying them in fossilized feathers, scientists can now reconstruct the authentic colors and patterns of dinosaurs for the first time. We now know that some were reddish-brown, others had iridescent sheens, and some sported stripes. Beyond color, researchers are also finding fragments of proteins such as collagen and keratin. These are the building blocks of skin, claws, and feathers. Analyzing their structure provides insights into the biology and physiology of these extinct animals, confirming relationships between species in ways that bones alone cannot. So, while we cannot bring a dinosaur back to life, we can bring its appearance to life with newfound accuracy. The dragon's cradle has become a laboratory for this new frontier of paleontology, where the focus has shifted from bones to molecules. The secrets being unlocked are not genetic codes, but chemical echoes that are rewriting our vision of the prehistoric world. In the history of science, there are moments of discovery so profound they permanently alter our perception of the world. The unearthing of the treasures within the dragon's cradle is one such moment. This small region in northeastern China has become to paleontology what the Nile Valley is to archaeology, a source of revelations that has rewritten entire chapters of our planet's history. Before these discoveries, the link between dinosaurs and birds was a compelling but incomplete theory. The fossils of Liaoning provided the definitive proof. Creature after creature emerged from the rock, feathered dinosaurs of all shapes and sizes, solidifying the evolutionary path from terrestrial reptile to avian flyer. Museum halls and textbooks around the world were transformed by these images, changing not just scientific consensus but the public imagination. The cradle also revolutionized our view of ancient ecosystems. It wasn't just a world of giants, but one of immense biodiversity. We saw flying reptiles with furry coats, gliding mammals, and dinosaur-hunting mammals, all coexisting in a complex web of life. It gave us a complete picture, a vibrant and dynamic environment rendered in stone. The legacy extends beyond the fossils themselves. The techniques developed to study them have pushed the boundaries of science. The analysis of melanosomes to determine color and the search for ancient proteins have opened up new avenues of research, allowing us to ask questions we never thought possible. Today, the work continues. Each year, farmers and paleontologists unearth new specimens, each one a potential piece of a puzzle 125 million years in the making. The dragon's cradle is a gift that keeps on giving, a reminder that the earth still holds profound secrets. Its ultimate legacy is one of connection, a tangible link to a lost world that helps us understand not only the history of life, but our own place within that grand, unfolding story. The dragons may be long gone, but their cradle continues to nurture our understanding and inspire our wonder.